Hey everybody, welcome back to the couch, episode 44, if I'm not mistaken, of the Hey Everybody podcast. I just got back from a walk with my son, and he was asking what episode I'm on, and I said today will be 44, and that made me realize that we're not that far from marking a full year of Hey Everybody podcasts. It's a curious thing about being someone who makes things like songs or records or podcasts or t-shirts or whatever. You end up having all this stuff you can kind of look back on and mark real specific times in your life or amounts of time in your life. And it's interesting to be able to... I remember when I was putting the book together of that collected lyrics book that I put out last year, you have these batches of songs that are in groups because of the record they went on, so you know like the year that you wrote these songs. And it's funny when you get some distance from them, and even before you have that distance from them, that you can see, oh, this is what I've been thinking about this year. And it's fun to have that stuff to look back on. And sometimes it feels good to be able to look back on stuff and see like, oh, I was kind of sad that year. And I'm feeling better enough that I don't see myself hopefully ever putting out a sad record again. I think you need every color on a record to make it real and honest and interesting. But there were records we put out that, like, the record's just sad. And some people are real into that. Some people sort of specialize in sad songs, or they pride themselves on sad songs. Some people even cling to it, like, it's how you know it's honest, because it's sad. And people I love, Townes Van Zandt very famously said, life is sad. A guy named Rocky Vodolato, who I like a lot, has said, like, yeah, I put all that stuff into my songs, and then I leave it there so I can go live my life without some of those thoughts or feelings. But for me, making a life out of this, I've not ever been able to strike that balance where my art is this thing, but I'm this thing. And some people can, and that's great. For example, in the past I have played like heavy music or hardcore music or metal music. And I never found a way to do that in a way that felt real, that didn't also bring some weight to it, where the performances weren't all that fun and it was very serious and kind of angry and that kind of thing. And I know a lot of people that find their joy playing heavy music, and that's rad. And I find some joy listening to it sometimes. But I find that the stuff that I say and do on stage comes from my life, but it goes back into my life as well. And I learned fairly early on in my solo career that I didn't want to make a life out of traveling around and telling everyone how sad I was. I'd rather do a podcast about it. No, I don't think that's what this podcast is about, though I have no idea what it's about. And I think that's one of the things I like about it. I hope you guys had a good Mother's Day. As I record this, it's Monday, which means Mother's Day was yesterday. We had a good Mother's Day here. As many of you know, we got a great mom in our house. She goes by the name of Tori. And any excuse to celebrate her is an excuse Oliver and I will take happily. So we did some fun stuff. And we had a good time. And we celebrated my lady. And it was great. And I hope it was great for you too. I know that sometimes those calendar holidays for some people, I almost said some of us, but didn't, for fear that might be giving too much away. For some people that I don't know, sometimes these calendar holidays can be difficult. Either Oftentimes, what is one person's reason to celebrate can be another person's reminder of what they ain't got. I know a lot of people that are struggling to have kids have some hurt on days like Mother's Day. And I also know, for all of us, those parent relationships can be, even the good ones can be complicated or tricky. And certainly they're all unique. And sometimes a holiday like that can just kind of remind you that maybe your mom has passed, or maybe you never knew her, or you're just not that close, or maybe something worse. And I hope for those of you, if there are any of you watching this that had that kind of day, I hope you were able to find ways through it. Funnily enough, I have a few kind of go-to things that when I'm clear-headed enough, I try to do when I'm sad or struggling in some way. And they're both, I think, very popular in the 12-step world, in the AA world and the NA world. And that's not a world that I'm a part of. I've had friends and loved ones that benefited greatly from those programs, and I think that's awesome. But I've listened to people in those programs talk about things, and I've picked up a couple, and that's kind of the beauty of a good idea, is that some good ideas are good ideas all the time. And so two of the things that I go to, one is a gratitude list. Sometimes I will physically write down reasons to feel good or content or satisfied or happy. And this can be like simple stuff. If I'm really wanting a new guitar, like too much, I'll stop and list the guitars I own. And at some point I can't help but marvel that, like, I used to be 12 and I had a $50 electric guitar and I was desperate to get a better one. And at that time, better would have meant $100 guitar, And I think a lot of times there's pain in comparing yourself to other people, but there can be a lot of joy, I guess, or satisfaction in comparing yourself to yourself back in the day, either recently or not so recently. And sometimes imagining myself talk about my life with a 12-year-old me is more than enough to shake me out of a funk. Because by almost any measure, life is pretty good. And especially by the measurements that I aspire to, that I fall into the same traps as anybody else, that you start thinking about money or stuff or security or whatever. But the things I really want my life to be about, those areas, I feel like I'm doing okay in, or at least I'm making progress in. So thinking about what I'm grateful for helps me a lot when I'm feeling blue. And then the other thing, and this is also from the program, is being of service. Sometimes when I'm just in a bit of a funk, it's enough to ask my son, like, hey, what do you want to do right now? Like, what would be really fun to do? Like this morning, I didn't feel like going for a walk. I felt like being sad. But he wanted to go for a walk. So I said, yeah, let's go for a walk. And by the same token, sometimes I don't feel like doing the podcast. I feel like being sad, or I feel like whatever. Being angry, being frustrated, being whatever I'm being. And forcing yourself to do that thing for somebody else, or even for yourself, can have a really big impact on the way you're feeling. And then finally, the third thing is to remind yourself that you don't have to do anything. If there's not a mom in your life, be it someone that you've had a baby with or someone that had you don't have to do anything. You could take a nature hike. You could drink 5 beers and listen to the Pogues, real joyously. You could do whatever you want. You could engage in some self-care, which is a tricky concept for me sometimes, because I think sometimes just random days off get labeled as self-care. I think real self-care sometimes involves doing things we don't want to do, forcing yourself to go for a walk, or get some exercise, or drink more water, or not drink 4 beers and listen to the Pogues. I think a lot of times people mislabel just the things they want to do as self-care. And you don't need to do that. You don't need an excuse to do the things you want to do. Because I think it's important to realize that real self-care sometimes means, I'm going to read this book that says it's going to help me deal with this thing, or I'm going to do this exercise, or I'm going to, eat this instead of that because I'm trying to look out for future 40-year-old me. I've been engaging in some of that stuff, some of that unsexy, unfun self-care that isn't a massage and a glass of wine and a day off. It's the harder stuff, but that will have the same or better effect. And like I said, take a day off, drink some wine, do whatever you want to do. I'm just rambling now. It is one of those things, though, that as you get older and you start navigating all these different things, I'm realizing it's almost never as simple for me as like, I think self-care is good, or I think it's bad, or I think the program is good, or I think it's bad, or I think this philosophy or this religion or this whatever is good or bad. I've been kind of stuck on the idea that each of us have to develop a philosophy rather than find one. And the philosophy you develop may include things from found philosophy, or found religion, or found whatever, lived experience, what have you. But being that you are a wholly unique person, living a completely unique life, it's no wonder we feel dissatisfied by trying to get these off-the-shelf philosophies or religions or ideas that couldn't possibly fit us, I think it's important to look into all that stuff, because you will find things in them that are good for you, or might be good for someone else. But I think a lot of this like ache or yearning or dissatisfaction we feel is explained by, we just keep getting told to try out these prefab things that might not apply to what we're going through. And for that reason, I think it's important to have a deep catalog available to yourself of things that might work and things you can move through. There might be a point in your life where stoicism is the thing, but then there might be another point in your life where a more ethereal spirituality is the thing. Or there might be a time in your life where a real strict, regimented, scheduled life helps you feel like you have it together. And it's okay to not clutch so tightly to, I'm a Christian or a Democrat, or I'm Catholic, or I'm a Stoic, or whatever. I think it's okay to just go like, I'm trying. And I'm doing things that at various times I hope will help me try and help me be better. My wife and I were having a really interesting conversation about that kind of stuff, about the nature of belief and agnosticism and that kind of thing. And I was talking about, I had heard once that Jewish people don't have, the Jewish faith does not have like a real clear set, when you die, this thing happens. What I was told, and I tried to be real clear that I was told this because I don't know how accurate it is, but I like it. What I was told is that they're encouraged to believe whatever is going to bring them some comfort and some peace and make them a better person here now. And I love the fluidity of that, and that's made to be customized as it should be, you know? And I like that a lot. And your whole life should be like that. I mean, people sometimes, rarely, but sometimes will ask me for advice, like on how to be a musician or how to be a dad or something. And I do the same thing. I ask other people for advice. And the answer is always the same, that like, beyond the simple, be nice, work hard, show up on time, and have working gear, your songs are different than my songs, and your goals are different than my goals, and your abilities are different than my abilities. So what worked for me or didn't work for me might not work for you, or it might work really well for you. For a long time, my sort of, you know, the way I operated was I say yes. That's the advice I would give to people. Like, just work hard, say yes to everything. If you can play, go play. And lately, sort of post-COVID year, I had plenty of time to think about, like, was that satisfying? And was that the best way to share my songs or do what I'm aspiring to do? And I'm realizing that it wasn't. And for some people, it might still be. But for me, I'm realizing that we played a show once at a festival. It was a great show, but it was not a glamorous one. We played very late at night. It was the after party of this festival. But John Prine headlined the festival. So I have a poster that has John Prine's name right up at the top. And at the very bottom, I believe second to last, says my name. And I love that poster. And I've been at the top of some posters, and I've been nearer the top of a lot of other posters. But lately I've just been kind of set on the notion that it's better to be at the bottom of the right poster than to be at the top of the wrong poster. And it's a little bit like that old saying about better to be at the bottom of a ladder you want to climb. But I'm sort of eliminating that want to climb part. I'm sort of saying, what if this is it? Whatever you're doing, you could be at what will later be revealed to be like the peak of it. So do you want your peak, your glory years, your best times to be, oh, we headlined this show and this show and that show and this show and that show, and we were the headliner, and we made some money, and but you don't really feel much about it? Or do you want to forever have this memory of like, for a half a second, me and one of my heroes occupied a similar space, even in people's minds. We were considered to be the same thing at different levels, but the same. And that matters more to me. And I think metaphorically that can apply to my whole life. And I'm hoping that I can manage that, to always look, I just want to be on the good poster, you know, and if that means I'm at the bottom, that's okay. But I certainly don't want to be succeeding by standards that I don't value, or by metrics that I don't consider to be worth counting. And I certainly don't want to be succeeding by other people's standards. And so yeah, that's what's on my mind this week. Being at the bottom of a good poster, and the complicated nature of celebrating people on a day that might bring you a little bit of pain. I got no answers for you, just ideas, man. And a song. I'm having a hard time getting this guitar in tune. She needs new strings, but she's not getting them today. And part of that is just me being stubborn. I'm gonna show this guitar who's in charge. You don't tell me when you need new strings. I tell you. This is an old song. It's called "Long Way to Go," and it just felt kind of fitting for today. It's It's what I call a moving on song. I'm a big fan of moving on songs because there's not a ton of resolution, and there doesn't need to be a ton of resolution. There doesn't need to be a great idea or this great message of hope and here's what you need to do to get out of the situation. There just needs to be, I have decided I'm going. And that's enough sometimes. It's not much, and that made it into the song. And it's not necessarily like closure or peace or anything. It's just, this ain't working and I'm going. And for now, that'll be enough to make me feel good or better. So this is called Long Way to Go. And it goes like this. I don't think that I'm hurt no more, so leave your amends by the back door. Well, I don't think that I want no more of what you have to give, what you have in store. It's a long way to go for not much, I know. But turn the lights off, I ain't coming home. Too many years I held a hatchet now, thinking it can't be buried, that it can't be put down. My hands cracked when the handle split. I got one last wound, and I was done with it. It's a long way to go for not much, I know. But turn the lights off, I ain't coming home. And all your blessed grudges, bruises, broken bones. Turn the lights off, I ain't coming home. Turn the lights off, I ain't coming home. It's a long way to go for not much, I know. But turn the lights off, I ain't coming home. And all your blessed grudges, bruises, broken bones. Turn the lights off, I ain't coming home. Turn the lights off, I ain't coming home. All right, let's do some recommendations. Let's get you out of here. First, drink coffee. I slept terribly last night and very little. So coffee, it's good for what ails you. First up, this band is called Clem, Snide. This record is called Forever Just Beyond. If you're a longtime viewer or listener of the podcast, you'll recall we've talked about this record before. But I feel like talking about it again, and it's my podcast, and I do what I want. I love this record. It was a big deal to me at the beginning stages of quarantine. It's a big deal to me now. My son in particular also quite likes it. It's just beautiful, kind of folky, kind of poppy, existential, hopeful, wonderful writing. In a song called The Stuff of Us, he says, Heaven spread all around us, love, maybe too close to see. And the stuff of us that's most real is eternal and free. That's good stuff. I like songs that you can sit and think about. And he has a lot of those. And this record has been bringing me some comfort this morning, so I wanted to share it with you. Listen to The Stuff of Us or Roger Ebert off of Forever Just Beyond by Clem Snide. Up next, this band is called The Builders and the Butchers. This record is called Salvation is a Deep Dark Well. Is there a better band name? I don't know. Is there a better album title? I don't think so. Is there better album artwork? Oof, look at that. Gah. All of their records, the album artwork was done by a guy named Lucas Kettner, who's a comic book artist. The book of his that I read is called Witch Doctor. I had both volumes, and then they disappeared, and I don't know where they are, and I'm sad about it. But this band is great. They do this kind of haunting, minor key, sort of Americana stuff. And it's kind of dark sometimes, and it's kind of sing-alongy in like a church revival kind of way sometimes. And they sing about the devil, and it's great. They have two drummers, both playing like rickety kind of hobo kits. And you get banjos and mandolins and all kinds of stuff. Listen to Short Way Home by The Builders and the Butchers, and you will be happy. And if neither of those grab you, wham! This band is called Limbeck. This record is called Hi, Everything's Great. I love this band. I love this record. This is one of those records that I believe to be perfect, that I have listened to so much that it feels like I'm just, this record is a part of my life in a very real way. It came out in 2003, and I've been listening to it since just about then, like a lot. And it's great. It's kind of twangy, it's not alt country, but there's a little bit of a twang in it, just the right amount. I think everything should have a little bit in it. And it's catchy, and it's fun, and it's summery, and it's a lot about they're a traveling band, so you get all kinds of references to all the places they've been, and it's a good driving record. Listen to Honk and Wave by Limbeck, and your day will be better. Beyond that, I hope everything's good. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you had a good Mother's Day. I hope if you needed some help, this podcast was able to provide it. I hope if you needed, I don't know if we're kind of light on laughs this week, weren't we? But I hope you're doing good, and I hope you're feeling good, and I hope you're feeling hopeful. I heard this Ebert Brothers song where he just says, "There's hope for sure," and it just stuck with me, and I love it, and I do my best to believe it, even when I don't, because I do, even when I don't. So be good, feel good. There's hope for sure, and we'll talk next week. Bye.